Oh, 2 successive defeats for the first time in 14 months. It's been a series since since coming back from the winter break of below par performances from Liverpool. I mean, you could put Atletico Madrid maybe to one side, but they lost the game, even if the performance was maybe at a level. Is it a worry?
I still say wow. I mean, you look at the season that they've had, the games, the trophies that they've already won. People are talking about Liverpool going, oh my God, they're going through a bad run. They've only lost 1 game in the league. Okay, they've been knocked out of the FA Cup, which I do feel they should have won and could have put a stronger team out. I'm not going to sit here and deny that. Atletico Madrid, well, that's always going to be a tough game, especially over there. And I felt they dominated that game as well. The only poor game that they've had really all season is probably the Watford one. And Watford, and like any other Premier League team, on their day can beat anyone. So do I think it's a worrying sign? No. I think they've still got a wonderful team, and I think they'll be back up it against Bournemouth.
So what's dropped then? You
know something, it's just surprising. I think that I wouldn't say it's taken its toll, but the pressure now to finish it off, and the fact that other teams are playing against a team that are putting up records, like we saw City putting up records, but now we're seeing Liverpool. They just missed out on the Invincibles record, and they're going for the point. They're just doing everything. I think that at some stage you're going to feel the pressure of that, and I think that after the Atletico Madrid game, people are starting to see, yes, they're fallible. We saw with Watford, against Watford, you have to give Watford credit, but at the same time, there's 5 or 6 Liverpool players who were terrible in that game. That didn't happen. We've seen games this season where you say, well, Liverpool got away with that one. I saw, we saw Norwich right at the start of the season. We saw Watford at Liverpool. We saw West Ham at Liverpool. We've seen games where we've seen this coming, but they've been able to get over it. We're just getting towards the end now, and maybe there's a bit of mental fatigue coming in with the continuous stress and pressure that they have to maintain to stay as the best. And I think that them not getting that invincible, they're not bothered about that. They just need to now get themselves composed again, because Chelsea played well. They didn't let them play. At the same time, they missed some really good chances, Liverpool. I think that people are overreacting simply because of how brilliant Liverpool have been.
The best description I've heard of Liverpool's title campaign from now on in is, we've organised a party, we've got in all the drinks and the nibbles, we've invited all the people, we've put our best clothes on, and now we're just sitting waiting for everybody else to turn up. And it's that sense. But I just wonder if you made the point about whether or not they should have gone stronger in the FA Cup, and you were saying you don't think they'll be too bothered about not being invincible this season. I just wonder if those targets help to keep the focus when it does feel as though they're sort of sitting waiting for the Premier League season to come to an end. They just want to get over the line now. If those targets can help them psychologically to push through and get to the end of the season.
I thought Liverpool back in December, when they had that run of games with the FIFA Club World Cup, I thought that was going to be their turning point. If they could get through that, then I think the rest of the season was going to be easy. And I'm a little bit shocked, because coming towards the end now, I would be thinking, well, they've hit all these records, or they're matching all these records. There's only 1 more game now. Surely they would be buzzing to get these records and kind of really get in there. But you could look at some of the performances, some of the attitude. You could see by their body language, they're probably thinking, well, we know we're going to win. We're probably the best team in the league that we score in the last 5 minutes of the game. So we'll get our chance. We'll get our chance. That won't happen all the time. And like I said, they've probably just had that little blip. And, in this day and age, I think it's virtually impossible to go for a whole season as being the Invincibles, because the amount of games that you play, the internationals, the players really don't get that rest. And like I said, it's just probably taken their mind off it now. They think, well, let's enjoy football now. Let's just go out there and enjoy against Bournemouth, and you'll probably see a different Liverpool team.
It might refocus them, Cal. It might refocus them, because just so as they can finish off. Because let's remember, like you mentioned earlier, they can still, they can still win the Champions League. This still could be an unbelievable season. But sometimes you just need maybe a little reminder of how tough it is, the unbelievable things you're doing, and what it takes to get yourself over the line.
I wasn't trying to... Well, I was trying to interrupt you, but only because we're waiting to hear from Jurgen Klopp.
Unfortunately, Oshak is not involved yet, and unfortunately, Ali is out. Yeah, Mr. Alisson had in training before the Chelsea game, little incident. We all thought it's nothing, was clear, will not play anyway. The plan was that he's on the bench, and then there we thought, oh, come on, we don't have to take any risk, and so left him out of the squad. Scan next day, and I found something, and so now he's out. We'll see next week, for sure. Next week for sure, and then we'll see.
That's big news. No Alisson for Liverpool against Bournemouth.
Well, I think that we saw the other day in the FA Cup game, we saw Adrian, as much as he pulled off some very good saves, he did make a mistake what you have to say gave Chelsea the impetus, but at the same time what's going to happen is that, you know, without Alisson, he's a massive key figure for them. You know, yeah, they're going to try and put more pressure on Adrian, and it's up to Adrian now to, to see it through like he did earlier on in the season. You know, it's not like he's new to it. He done it at the start of the season. I think he could probably get by now. But again, that's another load of pressure that's going to be heaped on the Liverpool side because there's a weakness there.
And it is a weakness because we, as Wrighty said, we saw in the FA Cup game that the original error was Fabinho's, but it was also compounded by Adrian as well for Chelsea's opening goal.
Yes, you're right, and as well as he did it early in the season when he had to deputise very early, I don't think he expected it. I mean, no one expected it really. He did well, but it's just not the same. And you would hope for Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp that this is just precautionary and that you can't take any risk for this Bournemouth game in provision of the Atletico clash, which is surely the biggest game for the week to come. And that you say to Alisson, listen, just have a rest, have treatment, and then you're ready to go next week. And then Adrian against Bournemouth side in the bottom three should be able to do the job, really.
Not only is it a Bournemouth side in the bottom three, they've got the fewest away points in the league since October. They've lost 9 of their last 11 away league games. They've only taken 4 points in that. In what ways are they struggling? What's different about a Bournemouth side who have had moments over the last few seasons where they've been in a relegation fight? Why has it got so much worse this time around, do you think?
I'd probably go down to like the form of certain players. Ryan Fraser, you know, he's in and out form. Callum Wilson, you know, Josh King. And I think that obviously losing people like Brooks, you know, we thought that Lewis Cook was going to be emerging a lot more than he has. You know, Harry Wilson's done as well as he can do coming from Liverpool, and you can see that he's definitely got quality. But when you watch them, I see them, and there seems to be they're playing a lot slower. They're not getting at teams, especially at home, like I saw. I think I see recently, yes, against Chelsea, they came back into it and they've done well, but I feel like they're not as quick, they're not as sharp, and players are not playing as well. They're not taking the chances as much as they did. And what would happen when they were playing that well, and then Callum Wilson was scoring at the rate he was scoring, Ryan Fraser was playing as well as he was, Josh King was playing. So what was happening is that they were getting those goals and then building confidence and going on to beat teams. But I think that what's happened is that teams have kind of worked them out a bit. They are slow, they're getting broken on. You're seeing people like Cook, seeing Francis, they're getting exploited. And, you know, it's just, this is a big test for them. You know, that can go into it deeper if you want about signings and how well signings have done. And, you know, that's a whole different story. But I feel that it's vitally important for Bournemouth to make sure that they do stay in the league because they've not built, they haven't got that big training ground that's meant to happen. They haven't regenerated or done anything with the stadium. So you look at it, they seem to be paying a lot of money on wages. And if they go down, they don't seem to me to be the team that when they got the infrastructure to come back because all the money seems to have gone on players and not building the training ground, building the ground and getting themselves to a place where they can then attract that player and then continue to grow. It just seems like it's stagnated.
And for Bournemouth, they are inside the bottom three, but they're level on points with Watford and with West Ham. When you look at the remaining games, having talked about how poor their away record has been, their last 5 away games, Liverpool, Wolves, Man United, Man City and Everton. They're going to have to rely on their home form, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that home form hasn't been that great either, to be fair, this season. So they had some good games, and I think Eddie Howe will have to find a way, especially defensively, because that's what's going wrong as well, is that they concede far too many goals. Yeah. Nathan Akey and the other defenders are not playing as well as they should be. The team is a bit imbalanced in the terms of defending, and it's far too easy to score against them. So unless they sort that out, and they don't have much time, as we saw, left for that, they will always struggle, and I think they should be worried.
So Bournemouth have reason to be worried. However, this weekend also sees Chelsea taking on Everton as Carlo Ancelotti is up against Frank Lampard, another old manager for Frank Lampard to be taking on in that game. We talked about Chelsea a little bit earlier when we were talking about Liverpool because of their success in the FA Cup against them in midweek. How much confidence can they take from that in what's been a really up and down season for Chelsea in a lot of ways? Yeah,
but again, I think Chelsea have been hard done by, and Frank, with everything what Frank's had to take over to get there, and then the transfer when they didn't have, he did the embargo, bringing in the kids, then the inconsistent form, the amount of goals they concede from like corners, and people saying that Frank doesn't know his best team, but then he's blooding young players. I think that if Chelsea, and they're still in the top four, let's remember that. In the FA Cup, if Chelsea can finish this season with a good run in the Cup and finish in Champions League spots, with what Frank has had to do with this season, I think that's a magnificent season for Chelsea. I think that, yes, Frank's learning how he's going in this Premier League, and he's finding that it's very tough, especially the scrutiny that's on you with everything what you're trying to do. But I still feel that, Chelsea have still got more than enough to finish in the top four and maybe go far in the FA Cup. So I think that simply because of who they are and what Chelsea normally do to managers and what could happen is why there's so much scrutiny on it. But I think that he's done very well up to this point.
Over the last 5 Premier League games, Chelsea's average age has gone up by over 2 years to 27. Given that it's all talk about, Frank Lampard's young team, partly some of the changes that he's made have had to be made because of injury, and some of the more senior players, Alonso, Giroud, Willian, have come back into the starting lineup. The other interesting one is that he's been picking Willy Caballero until the FA Cup game against Liverpool, where Kepa had a fantastic game. So does he now start to think about him reclaiming his number 1 spot?
Well, the one thing I saw about Kepa in that game, he didn't really play out from the back until they were very comfortable with the scoreline. They kind of set the 2 centre-halves there, and then I think it was a bit of a game plan, and I quite like that because Frank, even though he's played some fantastic football, he hasn't really changed much of their style. And it was the only time I really saw a little bit of a game plan against Liverpool, where to kind of sit there, and then they went up there and Kepa kind of just cleared it. And I felt that made him probably more comfortable, where he didn't have to play out from the back. So all he could think about is being a good shot stopper and stopping the balls. So that probably helped him, and probably helped him give Frank a problem to see, well, who is he going to play in the next game?
It was a big decision to drop the most expensive goalkeeper in the world. Equally, it would be a big decision now, having brought Willy Caballero in, to go, OK, you're back in now.
You're right. I mean, I think the decision to drop Kepa was the right one, because he was not playing well, so fair enough. And you give a chance to Caballero, who's done some good things and some not so good, because they've only 1 win in the last 6 in the league. So Caballero at some point could have done, or should have done better. It looked to me that Kepa was playing in the cup because he was the number 2. So usually your number 2 plays in the domestic cups, but maybe he won earned his place again in that game. It'd be interesting to see. But considering how Everton play, and all of those crosses and those wide free kicks, and the threat that Calvert-Lewin, for example, has in the air, and Richarlison, you would need a keeper that is very good in the air, which is not really Kepa's main strength either. So I think